Hi, Internet. It's us again, your favorite reactors from Fandom Spotlight, and another episode of Fandom Spotlight Reacts. And we live, baby. But before we get into our intros, we do want to send our well wishes to Yali. She was our third amigo last week. She's feeling a little bit under the weather. So she's a force ghost this week. But those of us that are here in the physical plane, we back. It is me, your host, Cassio Andor, because I'm going to be on time. I was on time last week. I'm gonna be on time this week again. Below me, or however your orientation is facing on YouTube or whatever streaming platform you're using this evening, I got the maestro himself, the human encyclopedia of the Star Wars media. I just made that up just now, Mr. Mikey Campbell. Talk to the people, Mikey.
I want to send well wishes to Yali, but she got herself canceled. That's why she's not here this week. I'm just kidding.
I was trying to cover up. I was trying to cover up what really happened, man.
We hope her and the Two Box crew can get back together sometime in the future.
Next week. But we have a very special guest. Now, I've heard you're like a Padawan learner in Star Wars. Like I heard from a scale of 1 to 10, they said like you're like a 4.5. So we're like getting there. We're still learning. We're up and coming.
Up and coming. That's exactly what's happening. I got to get all the info from the past so we can get into the future, right?
Exactly. Spoken like a true Jedi. Look, you on your way. You might get to cut the braid off early. We'll see. But we have a very special guest, Miss Miso Hai. Would you like to introduce yourself to our lovely fandoms fans?
Sure. This is Miso Hai. I'm here just giving kudos to Yali. And I'm so excited to be here with everyone. And I don't have much to say. This is Miso Hai, and we doing it. Like I said, get to the future. That's it.
So Mike, you're gonna have to throw me the episode name, but we're covering episode 4 of Andor, titled
I'm coming to you from a place with terrible Wi-Fi. It still hasn't loaded yet.
Well, it's episode 4. To title TBD.
Yeah. There we go.
So brief synopsis of the episode where we last left off. Cassian got on the plane with another white man. Every time he does that, his life takes off into a whole new trajectory with Stellan Skarsgård character. His name sounds like Lupin, but I know it wasn't Lupin, but that's how I was like remembering it. Mikey, do you have the correct pronunciation?
It is Luthen.
Luthen.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Luthen. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was like, oh, Lupin the Third. That's dope. All right, Disney, I see you. So yeah, he finally got off of his planet where he was a wanted man for murder, double homicide, no mercy, face shots. It was crazy. But we finally got him off the block because the block was way too hot. And they landed in the field, which was a very nice, serene place, a lot of grass. I would have liked to spend some time there. But looked very nice. Had some very mystical sheep with some crazy horns. And basically where we're at right now is we're seeing what Luthen's doing behind the scenes. You know, he has a lot of money. He has a ship. Cassian did point out something very interesting. Ships of his size usually don't have hyperdrives because they're smaller, and that's like a big thing that needs to be housed. So he was just like, oh, never seen a plane like this do that. And he was like, I mean, don't worry about what I do. So I watch in my pockets. So we know that he has some finances from somewhere, and he drops them off in the middle of the nowhere, and we meet this rebel group. So before we dive too deep into the next part, how are we liking how this episode started? You know, it picked up pretty much right where we left off, and we're starting to see the formation of not the Rebel Alliance yet, but just some a ragtag group of misfit friends looking to stick it to the man. Mikey, you can go.
I like
first.
that they're dropping a few breadcrumbs for us to kind of like figure out what Luthen's about. It seems like in every facet of his life, he is so educated on what is going on around him, or he's like in the know. You got to be in the know to know, you know? So from every instance, he's hitting it at like, he predicts how the rebels that he's working with are going to react to him. He knows, you know, that the people he's working with are being watched on Coruscant, not to jump too far ahead, but like he very much is clued into, you know, how the Empire operates, and he's tapping into the right people, but he's keeping tabs on all the people that he's tapped into as well. So it's really interesting to see just kind of like how he's overseeing a lot of things. And I would really like to know, like, you know, is he this like secret member that has formed the Rebel Alliance that we're not aware of? Like, is he on like Bail and Mon Mothma level that we're like just slowly getting keyed to? I think like we're gonna find out as these episodes continue.
Absolutely. And then Miso, so last week when Andor started, they gave us a 3-pack. So 3 episodes that just got kind of jammed at us, and we was just like, whoa, this is a lot to receive, but we love it. So to catch you up here, how have you felt about the show up until this point so far?
I love it. I think it's actually interesting. Insert Lupin. It almost makes it a little more interesting than the plot already was, because it's like I felt like him when he drew the gun. Like, who are you? What is this? Like, just tell me. Like, you know. And the anticipation, like, it like picked back up, because you're like, okay, we know he's wanted, we know he's leaving, and so insert, you know, these different characters. It's like, okay, you know, where's this going? Because it's already like crazy.
Absolutely. You just touched on something that from the opening scene that totally slipped my mind till just now. So look at you. She's a Jedi now. She's not a Padawan. Graduated so quick, so fast. We're so proud. We're so proud. So last week we had Luthen had kind of mentioned that he like knew Cassian's dad. He was just like, oh, he had mentioned like his dad was like drunk out into to the town square and hung. And Cassian that kind of threw him off. He's like, well, how do you know all that information? And then this week we kind of like got double reconfirmation that he like knows a lot about his personal life, because Cassian had mentioned his time in the war, and he kind of was just like, yo, I was boots on the ground. I was just like in the thick of it. And he's like, nah, you was a cook and you was AWOL. Like, don't lie to me, sir. so so he like even knows like his military background and stuff. So Mike, and you're a futurist, especially when it comes to like the Star Wars stuff. What do you think that relationship is? Like, how do you think he knows so much? What do you think like their connection is?
I have a feeling that the flashback scenes of Cassian being a child, if we go back a little bit further, I have a feeling that there was a either a strong friendship or some sort of like interest by Luthen for like the people of Canary, or I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the planet's name. I think it's Canary or Canary.
It was Canary. Yes,
and I think
Canary.
that's and that's why he has such a vested interest in Cassian, because he knows where he's come from and he knows what that planet has been through. And when he's like so clued in and keeping tabs on everybody, you don't let someone like Cassian slip your radar that's capable of doing what he's capable of doing. And we kind of like heard him explain that, but you're right in the sense that his interest in Cassian is so educated that there has to be more to it. And I think what it is we're going to find out that there's either familial ties in the terms of like, you know how like if your dad's really good friends with somebody, he's your uncle, essentially.
That's your uncle. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, exactly. I think that Luthen's going to end up being some sort of like uncle or father figure to Cassian that he's unaware of, or like that he had, but has lost touch with it. Even though Luthen is keeping his tabs on everybody, like Cassian's unaware that he's been watched this whole time.
Gotcha. And then Miso, for you, so are you going along with Mike that you think that Luthen might be connected to Cassian's like original parentage on Canary, or could he potentially like be friends? Because remember, 2 people found him like on that ship. Like one we do know, like I think Marv, one of those names, became like his adopted mother, but she was like with a gentleman who like didn't want to take him, and we don't really see him in the present timeline of the show. He's kind of absent suspiciously. So do you think like Luthen could be like a Canary connection, like Mike was saying, or it possibly might be someone who's known for like his adoptive parents?
I would say all of that and more. Like he might be like a master, like for his father type thing, like something like he knew his father well enough to know like enough like all about him, you know. And so I think it's honestly a lot deeper than maybe even like we think like, oh yeah, he knows him. Like he knows way too much about this information just for him to not know anything about him. And so it's kind of like in a creepy sense, but I like to think like beyond of like the relationship, because obviously he's spooked out about it that someone knows about all this information, and he just so happens to be the buyer for this, so it's just, it links up too well. It's like he was waiting for the perfect opportunity to like because maybe he already saw it ahead of time with his father, or maybe with whoever like his family was, whether he's like related by blood or not, is definitely like something like, maybe he helped create those things, like who knows, type thing. So.
Absolutely.
You guys think that he's not telling Cassian the full truth because he knows that if he does, Cassian won't do anything he says? Like, I feel like that's the vibe I'm getting, that there's going to be some like dark, twisted secret.
Classic Disney tropes.
Like the emotional tie aspect. I think he's like, he wants him to know about it, and he's going like, it's going to unveil a lot, but just like you said about like, it's kind of like the emotional aspect to make sure it's not getting to that extent, because there's a lot already going on. So he can't just be like, hey, I know you from this and this and that. It's kind of like, we got to keep moving, keep your emotions and everything calm, because you already like done this thing and murdered people, even though we know how it went down. But it's definitely, like I said, I think it's more than what we think, but in a very simple way. So
It's funny, like my logic brain always works against like my love for cinema, because like I understand that like there's a plot and you got to like build to the apex, then give the payoff. But I'm like, logically, here's a man who's been running around space looking for information for his sister, and he just met a stranger who knows all these intimate details about his life, and he ain't be like, hey bro, since you know all this, do you happen to know anything about my sister? Like you throwing out all these crazy familial facts. I got some questions for you, sir.
So above that is just like, if he knows about that and he knows about this, of course he knows about the sister, or at least some type of like, maybe he knows more about the sister than even the brother does. So
That's what I'm saying. The fact that he didn't even think to like ask that, like once he like read his military rap sheet without having it in front of him, I'm like, you sure know a lot about me. I got some questions for you, sir. Like I need some answers. But I wanna stay on Luthen, Mike, because I wanna the stuff with Cassian and the rebels is kind of very surface level. We can kind of like talk about that, because it wasn't really like it was what it was. Like they're setting up a heist. We got to see that, and we'll get to that. But there were two beats for the show. There was the stuff with Cassian and the rebels, and then I guess Luthen's 9 to 5, like his day job, like what when he's not rebelling, like how he pays the bills. And we see that he's some type of a procurer. This is twice now that the collector couldn't be used as a name, because they already used it for another property. But he seems to be a procurer of like ancient artifacts in the Star Wars universe. And Mike, because I know you seen some things. I know you saw some Easter eggs that were thrown in there. Tell me how you felt. Tell me how you felt about what Luthen gets into in his professional life.
So I think it's really interesting, especially based off of the things that are in his shop, that's kind of how he is funding his like, I guess like the operation is that like he's taking all of these plundered worlds, like antiquities and like rare and precious things, and selling them to fund his like portion of the rebellion. But in that room there were so many things that I don't think are going to have much to do with the plot, and are just simply things that the story group put in there to get fans to do like the Leo meme, because I was definitely sitting there like
that's the thing.
That's yeah. For fans of the video games, The Force Unleashed, Star Killer's like Sith helmet is just chilling in the background, which is totally not canon at all. But the fact that they put it in there was really cool. Some things from Rebels are in there. A Calicori, which is from Ryloth. Like it just kind of, you name it, it's in there. There was a Gungan shield that just chill in the background. I just love that they. Yeah, I love the attention to detail that they kind of like put in there. They know if this is a spot where they can have a lot of fun with it, they're going to do it. And that's exactly what they did. But it's the perfect cover for him to, obviously the Empire might not be super happy that he's plundered all of these things. The fact that he's making a profit off of it is kind of like in key with how they've operated. They're like, obviously the Empire has colonized all these planets essentially against their will, but he's taking all of these negative things that they've done, and he's repurposing it to fund a rebellion that is eventually going to take over the Empire. So it's kind of like it's his version of spitting in their food, if you will.
Okay,
And
bars.
it's
I see you there.
I mean, Cassian's spitting in their food when he walks in, but Luthen's doing it in a much more sophisticated way.
Absolutely. So Misa, you had brought up secrets, and one thing you'll learn about me if you ever come back and do any more of these. My conspiracy theorist brain just like be firing off. But we had talked about secrets, and I want to touch on Mom Mothma because that's a character I know that Mike's excited about. He loves when she pops up places. She's kind of been a very. I made a joke about Saw Gerrera being like the Wong of the MCU. Like she'd be like Wong 2.0. Like she's in everything. So Miso, for you, do you think because we don't see Luthen's character in Rogue One, I believe, or did we? I don't remember. I haven't watched Rogue One in a minute. Okay, we don't. So do you think that like with his wealth and his involvement, could he be a double agent? Think that's
Most
possible?
definitely. There's no could. Definitely have that much information. They're definitely double agenting around, town. One at least one person that they know from the inside or something. That's considered double agent. So most definitely.
So are you for you, do would you rather him, I wouldn't necessarily be good, say good guy, but like be double agent on the side of the Rebel Alliance, or like we get a plot twist, episode 9. Oh my God, we didn't see this coming, and he was like a triple agent, I guess, for the Empire on the inside. Which one would you prefer as an ending for his character?
Well, the answer is actually a plot twist, isn't it? So
Oh,
because
all right.
the way that I see like interesting characters is you can never categorize them as the antagonist or the protagonist because it's always situationally devised. So with such smart, characters, they always choose how like they plan it strategically enough to be like, okay, if it calls for this at the end of the day to lock myself inside of, the tower or whatever with all the agents or whatever so someone can get away and maybe tell some information on someone else, I feel like they always see it perspectively and know why they're doing it. And so like I said, it depends on the side you're on to be like, oh, this is an antagonist, or oh, it's a protagonist. So yeah, that's kind of what I think about it, if that's a
No,
good
I
enough.
love. No, that was a great answer. And Mike,
I
so
disagree with
no, go ahead, go
Miso's
ahead, go ahead.
take. Like, I don't think that she's right, but I love her thought about the character and like the protagonist versus antagonist. Like, I think that he's working in his own best interest, but like playing it
Mhm.
off like he's working in other people's best interest. So we'll see who's right at the end of the day. But I did think that was a really interesting discourse on like, what kind of character is he? And you're right, like he knows too much to kind of like be the one who's letting other people dictate the situations. So yeah, I think we're gonna see more shades of gray than we're expecting with him.
Yeah, I'm with that. I'm with that. But yeah, it is. He knows a lot. Like my man knows a lot. And then Mike, so we had talked before we started recording when you was like, oh, when I was watching, I wanted to text you certain things. So one part that I wanted to text you about, for sure, was when Mothma made her entrance into the show, and then her and Luthen seemed to have kind of a partnership, a friendship, where they're kind of like, I guess they're the coin purse of the Rebel Alliance, I guess, for lack of a better term. They seem to be the financiers of all this. But we're used to seeing Mon Mothma as just like, like this angelic pillar of like the rebellion and like this figurehead and this Joan of Arc, like, rebellion, let's get it. But in this episode, we kind of see her pre-rebellion, that she kind of was just like maybe one of the people in the most danger of everything, because she was in the Senate. That's obviously the Empire controlled and whatnot, but she was like, double agenting it up. But the part that I wanted to text you about, I was just like, this is so exciting, right? It's like the part where she goes back home to her husband, because I never knew she was married. That's not ever something that ever came up. And her
Yeah,
husband seemed to be like a total dick.
total
like,
dick.
like, so what do we think? Is he kind of just like red herring douchey husband character, or is like, do you see his character playing like a bigger role, and like there might be like a strife, and the reason why he might not even be a character is because like he like sells her up the road, like something led her from being in the Senate, you know kind of playing the background role, to like literally she became like Katniss Everdeen. She was like the face of the rebellion.
Yeah. It's weird to see her scared. That, you know what I mean? Like, I think we always kind of see her in like a position of power. So to see her like this fearful for her life is like, I mean, it's a clear and present danger for sure that, you know, she's in and people are watching her. They even think that her driver's watching her in the shop. And when she returns home, like you said, her husband's being a total dick. And I do think that you're on the right track there. Like, he's not around because she's going to have to cut ties with him. And whether that's because he sells her up the road or because she might have to make a terribly awful choice to kill him to protect the interests of tons of other people who are trying to free themselves, you know. And it's like, this show is much darker than we expected from a Star Wars story, but it really feels like we might be seeing certain plot lines play out like that. And if he bites it, I'm not going to be upset about it, that's for sure.
Yeah, he had glorious hair though. I'll give him that. My man had fabulous head of hair for sure. So we had that going for him. But staying on the familial ties, I kind of want to shoot over to we had kind of foreshadowed it that when Cassian got dropped off to like I don't know, I guess we can call them the rebels. It seems to be like putting the cart before the horse because they're technically not the rebels yet. But for lack of a better
They're like a
term, fuck
cell,
it.
right?
Yeah,
They're
that'll
like a
work. That'll
cell.
work. The misfits. That's what we gonna call them. So he dropped them off with the on the island of lost toys. He drops them off, and we meet a new character. Again, I'm terrible with names. Mike, if you happen to know her name, that'd be great. Like,
I think it was Vel. I
it
think
was
it was
something.
Vel.
It was,
There are so many new characters being introduced that like
bro.
even I am falling off my horse.
Yeah,
I was just
it
like
was
really excited because I was like, that's the guy from the bear.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And,
But
like,
it definitely started with a V. But we get a very interesting, in my opinion, interaction between Luthen and Vel. We'll just say it's Vel. Someone will correct us if that's not it. And for me, it seemed very familial. Like there was a lot of similar features between these two characters, and he definitely wasn't talking to her like it was somebody that he revered too much. So Miso, I keep landing on you with these Luthen conspiracy theory questions. Do you think there's more there than just like, oh, we're both fighting for the same cause? Could there be a deeper relationship between those two just based off, the tension that conversation when Luthen was basically saying like, nah, he's helping I don't care how you feel about it. Figure out how to convince your squad that this is cool.
I think they want maybe the audience to think that, but it's pretty basic, like you said. I mean, as
Mm.
far as from what I think, like all the other stuff really doesn't matter. It's so much high intensity and everything that's already going on. Like it's just like this is the mission. If there is something deeper in everything, it's like a side story, it's a filler. That's more of like filler information. But but yeah, I think to think about it though, it's definitely interesting, and it creates more of a story for the audience to kind of like imagine whether it goes into that or not. So
I actually I love that answer because I always make the joke about Marvel, which Disney property now, that a lot of the times they'll sit two things next to each other that should mean something if they connect, but they'll never like pull the trigger. Like in Hawkeye with the swordsman, like how that was such like an easy grab. Like, oh, this is Clint's former boss. That's how they knew each other, but they just made him like a complete cuck. It was like, well, why would you put this character in the show with this character when they have a relationship in the comics? So I love that answer of you saying like that's such a easy thing to be like, oh, that's his daughter. Like, and so it's like we're gonna sit it here and let the audience like, if y'all want to think that they're related because they got blonde hair and blue eyes, sure. Like, have
it
that.
adds more suspense in a way, because then you're like, what if they're related? And then you might, if you think about those things or care to think about it, when you find out, you're like, oh, I knew it, or oh wow, it kind of creates more of the story for whoever wants the story afterward, like you said, kind of like you know
I mean, their discourse was very candid, and like I feel like I come from a family that we all yell at each other, so it feels like it felt like a real familial conversation to me. Although my mind did not go there, so I'm glad you guys are bringing. Now I'm gonna like when I rewatch that episode, I'm definitely gonna like have that in the back of my mind and wonder if there's something deeper to that relationship and why he trusts her, has pulled her out here and is like I know you can do this. This is what you wanted. You wanted to lead. And he's like, pushing all these things away, but he's also kind of like putting foot down.
No, absolutely.
So
Because
it's certainly interesting.
yeah, because the part that kind of I was like, oh, like that's like if you're just going off of, again, the logic brain, like a normal flow of a conversation, like when they were like talking back and forth, and she like broke eye contact. He's like, "No, look at me!" Like he like yelled at her. He's like, "How dare you turn on me or whatever?" I was like, "That ain't how you talk to acquaintances." Like, that was like, I have children. I was like, I know that, yeah. Like that's familiar. That took me back. But yeah, nah, I'm loving this energy. That is one of those things, like you said, it adds to it. Some in a weird way, it adds to it by not saying anything. It's like, oh, did they or didn't they? Whatever.
It's
Y'all,
definitely shipping. It's like a healthy form of shipping because
yeah,
it's like the difference is someone that doesn't really care about the relationship might be like, like you said, but then you're like, no, that yellow. So it creates a different type of atmosphere for the viewer.
absolutely. So next part of the episode, after Cassian gets dumped off, with the misfits, she kind of they go on a trek, on a journey, just to kind of get back to their homestead, and then we meet a bunch of new characters. Again, like you said, Mike, so many new names. I did not retain any of them. I do apologize. Google is crazy though. I promise you'll find it. So he meets all the people. They don't trust him. Did anybody else? I don't think this is another low hanging fruit. Did anybody else get a feeling that the girl who bandaged him up is his sister? Was that just me?
I
Like
think it's
no
the
one else
vibe
felt.
of like it's gonna move into a canary vibe. Like this is like the beginning of kind of like moving back into where he came from, but it's like the precursor
Ooh.
almost. So the fact, like you said, that you're kind of like shipping a relationship, is like
Yeah, it's just like because it's like he had the interaction, like the guys, and they like, oh, standoffish, got the head nod. The one guy says, oh, we're glad to have you. But like when he had that interaction with the other girl, not Val or Vel V, but the other girl that was there. I'm gonna have a list of names next week. I promise. I'm gonna have a list of names, and I'm gonna do justice to these characters. But yeah, there was just like a moment. It was like kind of like an unbroken eye connection thing. It was like, oh, you kind of look. I remember people who used to look like you, like kind of, or look like us, this and then the third. And then, they kind of had like a conversation. She patched them up and everything. Was very maternal towards them and whatnot. And it seems like she out of obviously the map maker, like was the one that was most friendly and wanted him to be there. But it seemed like she was the other person that was just like, oh, cool. Like, all right, another person. Cause the rest of the group wasn't a standout. So I wanna get your guys' thoughts on what I guess this would be like the first big mission for the Misfits. Is anybody else if y'all have ever watched Money Heist on Netflix, that whole setup gave me like that type of energy, like of the show Money Heist, like that. Oh, the day before the big hustle, get some rest, guys, and everything. But like that whole interaction, just that whole setup, that whole set piece, like in the huts and them talking and them going over the plan and everything. Although this reminds me of Money Heist, which we talked about last week. Like tonally, this feels like a totally different Star Wars show. If anybody wants to speak to that with how they're like kind of giving us like fresh air, like in terms of like Star Wars stuff. Like usually Star Wars is very formulaic and like it looks the same, it's shot the same, it feels the same, but this feels like totally different. How does that make you feel?
I feel like the heist motif is something that I feel like Star Wars has been using a lot since the Disney acquisition, but it doesn't feel like we're getting like the full Oceans type like vibe to it. If you know what I mean. Like Solo, it would just like they rushed into this like action beat of
Yep.
them escaping Kessel as opposed to like actually doing the heist, and then it goes into the whole leaving Kessel or the Kessel Run, right? And then in Rogue One, you're jumping around to so many parts of the battle on Scarif that it doesn't quite feel like the heist is going like exactly the way that they've planned. Um, I'm thinking that this is going to lead into something that is much more in line with Money Heist or like a heist film. So it's exciting that we're going to kind of like fully get that picture, but I also kind of love that it's like a low budget like every other, and on any other Star Wars story it would be like a whole hologram showing them like how they're going to get here, like where they're going to go, but instead they
They had
like
the
made a
cutouts.
diorama of like of how they were going to do everything. So I thought that was a super interesting. And then to touch on the beat about it, potentially his sister being a part of that crew, my initial vibe was no. um, but I don't think it's like impossible. Like it's certainly something that like could happen depending on how long he spends with these characters. I could see things going wrong and him being one of the only people who makes it out of the situation, as opposed to the other way around where he ends up teaming up with these guys for a while.
Yeah, that's the sucky part about, this being like a prequel series. It's like you have to hope, like, oh, the galaxy's really big. Maybe they make it out and we just don't see them again. Like, that's possible. It's not guaranteed that they died. But Mike, you just said something that I really did like, because once he got dropped off on the planet, like you were saying with Solo, I thought that they were gonna like rush through the plan and do the heist in this episode. Like I thought that was what this episode was gonna be. But what you just said, I like really like that they actually made the decision to just like not do it this one. That was probably the most abrupt ending of anything I've ever seen in my entire life. Like I gave him the map. He was like, study this, figure it out by morning. Credits. I was like, I was like, wait, like, was that supposed to end like that? Like that was crazy. But I do like that they held on to that. There is another final beat that I want to touch on, Misha. I want to come to you as the newer Star Wars fan, because you've got to like see everything up until this point with like a fresh set of eyes. How do you feel like Andor is like separating itself like tonally from like other Star Wars stuff that you've watched prior to today?
Um, that's a good question.
I mean, I try.
um, I would say in like I feel like I don't know if this will be like if I can explain this right, but like it's like a homey aspect almost. Like yes, we get that from Star Wars, but we're more focused on home now. And so it's like, but it's not just like moving like in different locations like usually how Star Wars goes. It's like
Mhm.
internally, and that's kind of what I like about it. But also still it has all the Star Wars vibe, like plus the interest like popping off. It just makes it like so great. So like I literally started and it was like, hey, what's that? It's looking pretty like modern, but you can tell what it is. It has a different tone to it. Like I said, that's more intrinsic, but it has all of the same action, all of the same, even like the clothing, like in the first episode, they had like so many different like
Yeah.
like outfits like from so many different places, but the vibe and the color scheme and the energy was still the same. And so it's like it kind of feels like familiarity more so now. Like Andor is like more familiar, even though it's like not we're not projected that far, but it's more of like a familiar because like I said, like their clothing, the energy is like, like you could see where it fits in intrinsically more so than like previous like Star Wars. You would have to decode it a lot more opposed to like now, I would think.
Nah, I love that too because it was either last week while we were recording or before we hit record. We talk a lot here, but we had said something like I believe Yali had asked us the question like, did we think the fact that they got approved for a second season before the first one even aired was gonna like change how they kind of approach things? And I think so. What you just said is exactly it. Like I think they're like, oh, we don't have to rush and like pack everything in this one season. Like, oh we got season two. Oh, we about to take our time. Because like Mike was saying, like I feel like in the past they would have done that whole get dropped off. Here's the plan. Here's the heist go wrong. That would have all been one episode, and then next week would have been like, all right, what's the fallout of the heist either going right or going wrong? But now that they got that second season, it's just like, oh, we don't have to rush. Now we did say on the negative side that we did feel like episodes 1 and 2 could have just been one episode, so that might be kind of what you were saying before about like filler. Look at us circling back, the range, the filler, all the information is like, all right, we might not need to like drag it out too much, but it is very refreshing, and especially the point that you made about Star Wars. it is usually like a grand, big, giant production with mad set pieces and mad actors, so they like jump around a lot. But this show is like really focused it on like these characters. Like we might get like 4 or 5. If you really think about it, we might get like 6 to 7 different actors in an episode, and that's it. Like obviously you got like extras for like the cities and stuff and whatnot, but it's really like yeah, like 4 to 5 of the same actors just kind of like rotating scenes, which I think is like super dope. Because it's because it's a prequel, they don't really got to build the world because we've seen Rogue One, so it's just like here's some characters that y'all already know about. Let's have some fun for them. But I wanted to save the best for last. Everybody's favorite character, Gabe. Gabe from the Empire got a got a mega demotion. His
He got
boss.
one line. I think he just said, "Hi, mom."
Yeah, that's the look. He got to look. He went from being the main villain in episode 3. He had all the back talk and all the business. He was the boss episode 2. Now he just had one line of dialogue. And I know predictions that we had did last week was that we thought maybe not Gabe was like the central antagonist, but he was gonna be like a problem. Mike, are you still feeling like he's gonna get his redemption arc? Or is Gabe's kind of down and out? It's a wrap for him.
He's gonna be like, shut up about the twin sons." This man is going to be a perpetual thorn in Cassian's side. It's like it just goes to show, like, I don't know what it is about the actor. He does an incredible job of just kind of like selling emotion with his face. And I'm really kind of like, I'm excited to see where he goes, even though I hate him. But it's like, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like the actor does a great job if they make you hate the character. And he's done a very good job of making me do that so far. Kudos to him for putting on such a good performance of that type of character. But they wouldn't have shown these scenes if he wasn't going to be a recurring character that he's gonna try and find some form of redemption, and I think it's gonna come in the way of teaming up with the ISB officer, the blonde one who is trying to track down that box.
Yes, threw me that. Ooh, that's where I
box.
was gonna go. That's where I was gonna go with. But yeah, he has a very punchable face. That guy,
super punchable.
But Mike, you kind of walked me into I guess how we would close it out, because they did have like a little side plot, and we got more new characters with more new names that I don't know, but the ISB agent, who seems to be the only one that's doing her job. So we got some throwback Star Wars, the original 3 movies characters brought back. Look, got a little de-aging, looking a little good. Hair was slicked back, looking wonderful. And they basically were having like a meeting, and that box that Cassian had stole or procured, however you want to spin it, had come up in like an expense report. I guess it was funny watching like the Empire go through like their quarterly earnings meeting and, like, and everything. It was like, oh, y'all supposed to be out here like like savaging and ransacking the universe. Y'all trying to fill out 401ks. I thought that was hilarious. But this box that came up missing, and she was just like, hey, this is like the 3rd report that I've gotten in as many months with like some very similar activities. And I thought that was really cool. Like she kind of followed her beat was she followed the breadcrumb trail, and it basically like led her to kind of find a mini, like really like the beginnings of the rebellion, which kind of points out to like how crazy like strategic the rebellion was, is that they were like the way that they were like building up, like they were literally building up underneath. It was Hydra. It was reverse Hydra. Like the rebellion was like legit building up underneath the Empire's nose, and like they didn't even know. So Miso, I'm gonna come to you. Last week we had like did our predictions. Yeah, I guess I'm projecting what I think's gonna happen. It works. They're just words. They don't control us. We had gave our predictions on with 3 episodes in, now 4, where what we thought and or what we want for this series. Because Mike, how many episodes are? And you said 12.
So there's going to be 8 after this,
8.
12 in 1 and 12 in season 2.
Gotcha. So for you, 4 episodes in, where do you see the show going? What is it that you want to come to receive at the end of this?
So Gabe was the deputy in
Yeah, the super snitch. Yeah.
okay. He's giving villain vibes. He's giving big villain vibes. Uh I don't know. Honestly, I'm excited to see where it goes. And I'm also interested in your shipping of these characters because you're gonna ship some characters and they're gonna die. Or,
Oh yeah.
or you're gonna get to know their names and they're not gonna be used anymore. So I'm excited. I don't have any expectations because I already like the jam packed familiarity, like I said, they already have. But I'm always for finding new characters and then like grasping like I love this character, these new characters, and then like they fall off and you're like, and then the new characters come. So I think that's exciting. And then with the Gabe guy, the punchable face guy, generic Peter Parker. Um,
He does look like Peter Parker.
um, he's given like bad guy vibes. Like, so I think we're gonna see more of him. Like, cause people are like so sour they can't let it go. He was already a problem from the get go. Like, you got the command to just stop, and you didn't stop. So, it's great. I want to see more villains. I like to see more villainy because the opposition is what keeps it going, keeps it moving around. And so, the misfits are cool, but one of the misfits is gonna not be feeling them, all the way.
Mm.
Then he's not gonna fit in because
Okay,
he's
okay.
the one. So
You didn't walk this into a question.
okay.
So, because I was getting that feeling too. It's giving somebody in that group's not going to be feeling Cassian, whether it's like jealousy that maybe he was like the second in command and now Cassian is the second in command. You know what? I'm calling it now. Something's gonna happen on that heist that like will make it like almost go wrong, and Cassian will like make it go right, and then he'll become like the new favorite, and somebody's gonna get jealous and somebody's gonna try to mess it up for the group. I don't know who that
So
somebody is yet.
I know who
Whoever's
it
been there
is.
the longest.
I'm ready. I got a prediction. I'm really
Go
gonna
ahead,
hot take
give it
right
to me.
now. If
Give it to
if
me,
your
brother.
theory is correct and that's gonna happen, I'm
Give it to
calling
me.
it. So this is so we like kind of went over oh my gosh, I'm losing my words here. Anyways, there was a brief line of dialogue when the guy was sleeping on his watch, and the actor from The Bear, who I have no idea what his name is because way too many characters are getting introduced.
Too many.
Like he says to him, if you were in like Saul Guerrera's group, they would have cut your head off and put it on a stake just to make an example of you. And so I
Mm.
feel like he's like more hardened. He comes from a more like radicalized group of rebels, and to me, he's the one who is not happy that Clem or Cassian is there, and I could see him being the one who's like, nah, like he's not vibing with us, like he's not fitting in. I don't care if he helped save the mission or whatever. Like if we never brought him in, like so and so wouldn't have died or something like that. Like something bad is gonna happen. Like he's gonna help them complete the mission for sure. But I think you guys are onto something here. Like one of the misfits is definitely gonna be pissed off, and it's gonna cause inner turmoil in the group.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny that this episode happened because because Mike's been demanding me. Like for some reason I tapped out, not tapped out. I just got sidetracked from finishing the last season of Star Wars Rebels. I did, but I got sidetracked. But one of the episodes that I was watching that this is kind of reminding me of, especially if what we're predicting might come to pass, is the episode with Saul Guerrera where him, Ezra, and try to steal the giant kyber crystal. And Ezra's just like, oh, we've been playing softball. Saul don't play. I want to go rock with him, be like radical. And then he got this. It's like, yeah, I don't like it here. This ain't it. I don't like how you conduct business. But I could definitely see the actor from The Bear. Like we're just gonna give these people nicknames and just rock with it the
Mhm.
whole season.
We can call him
The
cousin.
actor-
We'll just call him cousin.
Got you, cousin. Facts. Yeah, I can see cousin. Being like, oh, y'all are playing too fast and loose. Like I don't like this. Like I'm about to go over there because we know Forrest Whitaker's supposed to show up in the show. So That could look, writers room, just come get us. Just come get us. It's just that simple. Just hire the three of us, Yali too. Just bring us all. We'll write the show. Like it's gold. Now watch none of this happen. like,
Yeah,
like
I
whoops.
do want to like go back to a point you made about like the same box or the same like description of like how the rebels were operating in her like jurisdiction, like coming up 3 times, and I feel like she was yelling fire in like a movie theater and nobody was listening, and I'm just
1000.
like it's one of those things where it's like she's going to be onto something, but the incompetence of the empire is going to once again show itself um, by the fact that like they continue to get away with these things. So I do think it's funny how we're kind of seeing like people who see themselves like formidable or like the like greater part of the empire are going to come together and really just be just like stepping stones for the rebellion. So it should be fun, should be interesting.
And it's crazy because like, we know I keep beating this drum, but like we know how this ends, and like the rebellion does succeed and stuff. So it's just like we know at least to some level they're not gonna believe her, and it's like it kind of like makes you root for her even though she's the bad guy. it's
Yeah.
like it's like no, she's on to it. They're really about to fuck up all your shit. Like pay attention to her. Like, rooting for the bad guy. Look, me. So you said it. We about that villainry. Rooting for the bad guy.
It wouldn't be
We want
interesting without it, right? We need something to happen. We need somebody to mess it up.
exactly. So I guess we'll give predictions not for the rest of the series, but just for what we think the next episode will be. What was the planet that he was on before? Not Canary, the one that he like moved to. It started with the F, I feel like. And it was like a one syllable
Oh,
word.
Ferrex.
Yeah, Ferrex. So we were away from there pretty much the whole episode. I don't think we were there at all. But we know Bix is there and she might be concussed. Tim with two M's got shot. His mom's was still under like, police watch and everything, and she still ain't turning on the heat for whatever reason. You know, we got what's our guy? What's the android's name? B
Oh,
B
B2 emo.
B2 emo. Yeah, like we got all that. So predictions for next week. Are we going back there? Are we sticking with the heist? Is it gonna be, we got Gabe trying to figure out. I'm feeling Gabe's gonna have that that every detective movie when the detective gets too obsessive and they kick him off the case and then he figures something out when he's off the case. And they're like, no, you can't come back. He's like, but I figured it out. That's gonna be Gabe.
It's the only thing he has to live for now.
Yeah, facts. That in his custom made suit. Yo, did any of
Yeah.
y'all laugh like when they was in the lineup getting yelled out and the other two suits was all like dusty and dingy and his was like crisp, had like the trim. Like, my my man had mad pockets. I'm mad that that's kind of become like a running joke in this series because that was like his first scene. His boss was like, did you edit? Like, did you tailor your suit? He was like, yeah, I made some changes. That's really been like a thing. But Mike, well, I guess we'll go to you first before we close us out. What do you think? What's happening next week? What we doing?
All right. So I think that we're going to get heist next week, and intertwined in between that plot line, we're going to see um, probably some more stuff from Luthen. I don't think we're going to go back to Ferrex in this arc. It's gonna happen after the next 2 episodes. But once the heist is completed, which this could go into the next episode of the arc, it's going to be another, I guess, like crumb left for the ISB connect things. And I think that Gabe is going to find out about it too and kind of like bring those plot lines together while we see Cassian gain some of the respect of the Misfits while the other ones aren't happy about it.
Love it. Love it. All right, Miso. So I'm gonna ask you same question, but then I got a second question for you specifically that we gonna wrap this up with. So first one being, so what do you think is gonna happen in the next episode, episode 5?
I would definitely say Ferrex too soon. We got to have the misfit drama. We need more misfit drama. So that's all. That's really about it. We already know where it's headed, but it's just like what's going to happen within that time frame. Something's got to happen because we got to keep it moving and pushing. So what is going to be the catalyst for that? Like, okay, this is where we need to move, or this is where we move now because this thing happened. So it kind of like it's going to change our mind of thinking like, oh, everything's on tune, on track, and then boom, something's like, okay, you know. So that's what I predict is like coming up.
Look, you done started this episode as a Padawan, then you done promoted to Jedi in like 5 minutes. I think you might get rank of master because you just threw me the oop for what your second question is to round this out. So you had mentioned like we already know how all these characters' stories play out. So it's a two-parter question. So because we know where Cassian ends up in Rogue One, do you A think that he'll find his sister in this show? And B, because we know that she's not in the Rogue One movie, which could be, foreboding for her, do you want him to find his sister? Do you want to experience that heartbreak? That something he might find her and something might also happen to her before this show's over?
Yeah, definitely. I want to know more of why it's so important because it has to do with the intrinsic, like I said, at home feel that like we all like know at least, some type of form of like we're familiarized. So yeah, I definitely want to see him like find his sister. But I know that when he well, I can't say I know. Hopefully it's not all like sappy, like, oh, we found each other. Like I want like hopefully it's like a plot twist, like, whoa, no, you can't be working for them, or like, like dramatics that are kind of like I feel like it might be a little villainry where he's like, whoa, when he finds out more and more, the closer he gets to his sister, like the more like how involved he really is that he didn't think he was, as
Mm.
far as like his job, the people you meet, like, now he's part of this misfits group. Like there's always going to be some type of correlation to that for his sister, and that's why like the journey is leading to her. But yeah, it's kind of like my thoughts on that. Was
I'm
there another part,
rolling.
or did I answer that?
No, that you answered both at the same time. Look, Jedi Master. Look, we bestow upon you the rank of Master. You done made it through in a 52-minute crash course.
You got to
Bravo.
pull the lightsaber out and cut her braid off, man.
I made it.
Oh my god.
Yep.
Uh.
Just gotta shave. I'll have the braid next time.
We got it off. Mike, so I know last time, we spoke about the sister, but with Miso's Jedi wisdom just opening my third eye, I guess I want to ask you the second question as well. Knowing that we don't see her in Rogue One, which could lead one to believe that something bad might happen to her. Do you want that moment of him finding her and potentially losing her again? Or would you prefer that, maybe he finds out that she was like maybe she passed on and we kind of get that reveal, like, hey, she died a couple years ago. She never stopped looking for you, story. Or do you want them to like have that physical reunion that we know ultimately ends with him being blown up on the beach with his girlfriend? Spoiler alert if you haven't seen Rogue, if you haven't
I
seen
would hope
Rogue
that
One.
I would hope that you've seen Rogue One by now. But if you're watching this, yeah. So
Oops.
I'm kind of hoping that Cassian pushes forward in memory of his sister, and we get a very traumatic event of her death, whether it be she's someone who's been fighting with the rebellion, right?
Oh, I
Or
like that. I like
right,
that.
so it's like it inspires him to continue moving forward, or the Empire officer and Cassian's just like, I gotta get back at these guys. so so he dedicates his life to taking out the people who have pretty much offed his sister. It would give it, that's like a personal motivation. I feel like that he's more in it for the freedom of like the galaxy, and so I think that having her be someone who's been like a freedom fighter leading up to it makes more sense. But we'll see when it happens, because I'm sure that it's a thread that can't be just completely dumped. Like it has to be part of the story, I feel like.
Wait a minute. Conspiracy theory out of the box. Y'all don't even know. Y'all just we just let our powers combine. Captain Planet did this one. What if the sister was a rebel fighter, like you were saying, Mike? Like she had beat him to the game. She was already in the game. And then going to what Miso was saying about Luthen having a deeper relationship that maybe we not even seeing. What if his relationship was already with the sister? And the sister was the one who was just like, go get my brother. Maybe she was sick, Or maybe she was dying and she was just like, hey, you need someone who can help you and pick up the slack. Go get my brother. And like you were saying, me, so like maybe he does know more than he wants to let on. Because if he says it, then it'll like how do you tell someone who's been looking for their sister, yo, your sister's dead, but she sent me to come get you? Like, how do you feel? Plot twist just blew my own mind. You're welcome, Star Wars.
Come get us. Come get us.
He definitely knows a lot more. He's just trying to keep his emotions, make sure that his emotions aren't like everywhere. Because, like I said, he just murdered 2 people. He's looking for his sister. You know, he didn't even mean for that to happen. Now it just made the situation worse to find her, and so definitely, and I like the heartbreak vibes with the plots of like, dang, she's dead already. What am I gonna do now? You know. Because it's like, dang, what happens next?
I'm calling it. I'm calling the sister was already in the rebellion. Something happened to her, and that was like her dying wish, like for Luthen to like go get my brother. Like we're so close. We need more manpower. I need somebody next to you that I would trust in my life who got the same type of work ethic, who likes to fuck shit up. Go get my brother. Calling it. Book it, Dano. That's how we gonna close this one out. Cause look, I'm on time twice.
It's true. It's 2 times.
2 times.
Like
Look,
the 2 boxes.
this look like the 2 boxes. 2 boxes 2 times. This is uncharted territory. Look, this is what happens when Fandom Spotlight Reacts Live comes back. We don't know how to act. We got special guests. We done promoted someone from the rank of Star Wars novice to Jedi master, all in the course of one conversation. Who else could do that? But Matt and Mike. I don't know. couldn't couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you. Well, Miso, it has been a joy. Please don't make this be your one and only appearance here. Don't just be an alternate. Hey, maybe the 4 of us can do it next week if Yali's
Yeah, I would
feeling
love
better.
to speak with Yali. That'd be
Let's
awesome.
go. You know what? That's what we're doing. I don't
Yeah,
even
I'm
make the
invested now.
decisions.
I
I
gotta
don't
see
even
what
make the
happens.
I don't make the decisions of Fandom Spotlight, but we're live. So I'm telling y'all next week is gonna be Matt, Mike, Miso, Yali, quartet of Star Wars excellence. It's gonna be great. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. But before we get out of here, Matt and Mike, I'll cover us, but I want to give the spotlight to our new guest, our fourth member, the fourth member of our Star Wars panel. I know you were saying that your socials are still kind of on the up and up, but if you would like, tell the people where they can find you, how they can support your endeavors, what you got going on.
Oh, well, I'm Miso Hai. I actually work for the gamers. That's how me and Yali are.
Hey,
I'm app support manager for the gamers. And so I found the information. I've been following Fandom Spotlight. And she's like, hey. And I was like, sure, I'll do it. So it's really exciting. Now I have a new show I can watch. And I got other people watching too. They're like, what are you watching? This is really good, actually. You know,
there we go.
you know, at first they don't want to watch. I'm like, I was like, wait, this is pretty good. Yeah, pretty good. You watched the whole episode. So we're definitely invested. And I feel like the Jedi mind is only going to get stronger
Look,
throughout
look,
this.
look what we did in one episode. What?
So yeah, if you want to find me, you can find me on the gamers. All of my socials are Miso Hai. So if the just MISO High doesn't work, put in an underscore in between, and it'll work. So
Beautiful, beautiful. But you know who we are. It's Matt and Mike. Dragon Ball for Life podcast, Fandom Spotlight's flagship podcast, might I add. You can find me and Mikey here, obviously, every week on Fandom Spotlights Reacts. You could also support the podcast at DB4L underscore pod. That is DB4L underscore pod on both Instagram and Twitter. Dragon Ball for Life drops every Wednesday when we're on time, which is 99% of the time, on Apple, Spotify, Anchor, and a whole bunch of other streaming platforms that don't have enough of a marketing budget for me to say their names. So, everybody, this has been a joy. The 4 of us will be back next week covering episode 5 of Andor. So we would like to thank you all for giving your Thursday night to us here at Fandom Spotlight Reacts. And remember to follow your force and your fandom. We will see you next time. We out.